Hola Diana, ¿cómo estás? Gracias por estar aquí. It's an honor, and I know you have a lot of stuff that you're going to share with us. So, to start off, a ver, tell us about yourself, and then, we'll get into the good stuff.
All right. First of all, I want to thank you, Amapola, for inviting me to be on your podcast. It's such an honor and a privilege to be able to share with you such an amazing Chicana power social worker. My journey and my story, I'm more than happy to share. Thank you. So, my name is Diana Diaz. I'm the founder of Mexichic Crafts, a luxury leather line. And actually, I introduce myself always as the first Chicana luxury leather designer from East LA. And
Yes,
that's because I Googled one. I Googled who's the first Chicana luxury. I couldn't find one. I was like, I'm claiming that. So I
yes.
claimed it. And I'm also the founder of the Goddess Mercado. It's a nonprofit collective of all Latina women in East LA, and the Queer Mercado, and it's a outdoor collective of all queer vendors popping up in East LA. It's the first permanent family queer marketplace
Yes.
in East LA, in LA, I think. So I'm very happy that we're there. I'm very proud of the work that we're all doing. And that's why I'm here to share my story, my journey.
That is so awesome. I love the fact that you're like, wait a minute, the Chicana, and like, you're like, I'm on it.
Yeah.
You say that because I can relate to that. I'm like, is there a Chicana therapist? Chicana podcast? I was like, hey, I'm on it. So,
I realize I'm also a school counselor, and I worked at LAUSD already 29 years as a teacher, as a counselor, and in East LA. I always tell everybody when I share my story, because I worked at all the four local high schools. I worked at Wilson. I went there. I worked at Roosevelt as a counselor. I worked at Torres, and now I'm at Garfield. And I tell everybody, I feel like I was part of a longitudinal study, but because I went to school here and I stayed here and I'm working here and my son's going to school here, but working in my neighborhood, I realized that when I started displaying artifacts in my office, and I went on a trip to Mexico, I bought huipiles and I wore them all fashionable to work. This was not even that long ago, maybe 15 years ago. The kids at particularly Roosevelt were like, Miss, are you Mexicana? You look white, even though I have like an East LA accent, they couldn't tell. And like, yeah, I'm Chicana. And they're like, no way, you're not embarrassed. And I was so surprised to get this kind of reaction from some students. And I realized that some of them were still experiencing shame, and there was just not a lot of representation of who we are. A lot has changed since then. Like, I credit a lot the Day of the Dead. It was just a beautiful celebration. It was only a matter of time before it would take off and be marketed everywhere. It's like a Christmas, right? Everybody's in costume and celebrating. It's so beautiful. But I felt with that experience, I felt that there was a very strong need of me to represent my roots. I liked the reaction that the kids had, and it inspired me. I was like, yeah, mexicana, and I would wear trenzas and flowers and huipiles, and, started doing the whole 16 September, any excuse that I had to represent my culture, my trenzas, my chicanenes, I would do. And even that's actually what also inspired my line of handbags,
oh,
because I like luxury, although I can't afford a lot of luxury, but I was buying the fancy Gucci, Louis Vuitton, my novios me las compraban, and they're beautiful, but I thought they were so expensive. And I learned the story of some of them, and I learned that some are not even real leather, and a lot of these luxury items are made in China, which is okay, but I thought, I want some luxury that is more representative of me and my culture and my roots, and what I love. And I have always made handbags. I started with cloth and tapestry and velvet satins. So when I wanted to kind of upscale my product and I had some competition with the other lines, I thought, let me try out leather. And the inspiration came from the little hand painted bolsitas that you could buy at the border. You know, my grandma used to always, when
Yeah.
she would visit, she would bring me a little hand painted leather bag that was like hand braided. And I used to love them. And I had a collection of purses, and that was the inspiration. So I ran into a manufacturer in Mexico that did tooling, and that was open to working with me and trying out my designs. And it's my 7.5 year now working with this manufacturer. I'm learning a lot. I'm taking some risks. Some things work, some things don't. I'm having a great time, and it has been very empowering because along my journey, I've met a lot of women with similar experience, similar passions, and like we empower each other, we share tips, we're growing together. And actually being around all these women, that was the inspiration for the Goddess Mercado.
Wow, that is so cool. And I saw the purses. Oh my God, they're so beautiful. Las de corazón. Oh my God, those are so cute.
Es mi corazón.
Yeah.
I should have had them ready, but this is Amada. Can you see that?
Yes, Amada. Oh, that is.
She's a crossbody, and I have like brass details. I gotta do the plug, girl. It's brass details, Arham tooling. She's fully lined with red suede, and she's like a fabulous crossbody that you can,
Yes.
wear over your casual clothes, your dressy clothes. I warn you, you're gonna get tons of compliments.
Yeah.
Somebody even ran after me at the Target, Miss, where'd you get your bag? So
Oh, really?
I get that a lot. So I had on my cards.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful product.
It's so beautiful. And for those of you who are listening to this podcast, you're going to have to go to YouTube and look at the purse and the video, because it's beautiful. And there's different colors and different styles. So it's really unique. And I love the fact that you embrace your culture and the youth are able to see that, right? They asked you, aren't you ashamed? Did you grow up feeling like that at some extent when you were younger? Because
I did. Did you?
yeah, I did. I was like, ay, me gustan las rancheras, pero I can't tell people I like them. Oh my God.
Yeah, because they would back then, and this is so offensive, but back then, anyone that spoke Spanish, like I was called a wetback.
Yeah.
My first language is Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't learn English until maybe first grade. I remember starting kindergarten, and I didn't know what the kids were saying, but I understood, right? They wanted to be friends, we wanted to play. And I was in the bilingual classes, so it was like all the Spanish speakers.
Yeah.
And my teachers changed my name from Diana to Diane. And I all the way up to college, I was Diane. And then I took that first Chicano Studies 101 during summer bridge. And I walked out of class. I'm like, I am Diana Diaz, and with education, with knowledge, you evolve, you embrace with confidence, you start embracing a little bit more of who you really are. And that's where I'm at. I'm Chicana. I'm a former street vendor. Actually, I'm a current street vendor. I'm, a daughter of immigrants that came from the ranchos, uneducated, ignorant. And, I'm very proud of it because this is who I am now. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a school counselor. I'm a founder. I'm a creator. I'm a CEO of a nonprofit that is helping elevate women, queer, and Latinidad in the community. So I feel a lot of confidence. And I know that as a counselor and as an educator, that sharing my story has the ability to inspire a lot of the people that I work with, specifically the youth, who happen to be our best investment, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. As you're speaking, I feel the confidence in you. I feel that passion and that desire of like continuing to open these paths, right, for our youth, those who are behind us. And that doesn't mean that they're less. It's just like we're older, right? We're like a little older generation than the youth. And it's just amazing. And, you know, como dicen, Dios nos pone en los lugares apropiados because it's meant to be, right? And so where are your parents from?
My dad is from Jalisco, from a little town, Ayutla, and my mom is from Sinaloa, from Guasave. So she's norteña and he was sureño, and I grew up with a lot of mariachi, a lot of banda tamborazo, corridos, you know, and I would hear the rivalry and competition between my parents. And I love both. I love the romance and heartbreak of the mariachi, you know, and all the instruments. And I like the loud, you banging from the tamborazo. And my uncles were all musicians, and you know, now that I'm old, even though maybe during my college years I was all like, you know, fabulous, I was going to clubs and all Americana, right? You know, as I got older and I started really appreciating my parents, that music became very nostalgic, and I enjoy listening to banda in the morning, and you know, mariachi at night when I'm feeling romantica, and boleros and all that. And I prefer Spanish music over English, you know.
Same here. Same
Yeah.
here. It's different. I think speaking the language in Spanish and reading in Spanish is so different. Como que al corazón, like, you know.
It's very romantic and sexy, you know. See, if a man speaks to me in Spanish, you know, oh my God, it's more powerful than if it was in English, specifically a handsome man. And also I think because Spanish, you know, I was listening to a lady that translates, and she's like, you know, like, can you guys please slow down when you speak, because we use so many more words to translate Spanish. Like, you know, to say one thing, you use like 4 words. And I thought, oh my God, how beautiful, how expressive, you know. So
Yeah, colores, pues también.
See, you know, it's romantic.
Yeah, that is really nice. So, what got you into becoming a school counselor and then obviously entrepreneur? Because, you know, it sounds like you're multi-gifted, and that is just amazing. Like, and everything kind of meshes in together like perfectly. So, what made you want to be a school counselor?
La necesidad. No, you know, I grew up vending and in sales, and I've always been really good at sales, but you know, like, my experience was limited. You know, I wasn't going to cut it with just making purses and popping up. So I had to go to college. It was not an option. My parents, you know, did implant that in me. So I went to college, and I tried being a teacher because I was like, oh, that's perfect. I'll have summers off. I can be a mom, you know, and it's actually perfect for someone who wants to start a family, right? Because you're on vacation the time with your kids. But being a teacher is so challenging. It's so difficult. I found that I had very little support, the support that I needed, you know, and I was on emergency credential. They just threw me in the classroom. And aside from it being scary, it was like difficult for me to manage. And I appreciate teachers. I love teachers, but I knew I couldn't stop, but I wanted to stay in education. So I kept going to school. You know, I thought I would be an administrator. And I used to meet with the counselors at the high school to get help for myself. And I really liked the counselors and their role, and how they talk to kids and their initiatives. So I decided to be a counselor. And they say those who need help are the ones that offer help, right? You're a social worker. So I got my first job as a counselor here in East LA, and I found great passion for it. I was even awarded Counselor of the Year by Mayor Villaraigosa's Partnership for Los Angeles Schools. It was something that I was so proud of, because I'm from the community. I went to school here. My parents are still here. My neighbors, some of them were my students. You know, I fell in love with the parents because I could relate. And, you know, I became an advocate. No, señora, aquí la vamos a ayudar. And no, we're going to do this. So I was advocating for our families and advocating for the roles of a counselor and what we needed. And I did get a lot of support. And then I got some recognition. And that small recognition really fueled me. I didn't think that I could be held at such a level. And then I felt accountable. So I was like, okay, let me work harder, because, some people may not be comfortable with it, with the attention or even though I'm humbled, like my sister would say, ay, qué volada. I'm like, well, it's a big deal being recognized as Counselor of the Year. It's a big responsibility. I don't want to lose that title again. Let me do a good job. Yeah. So I continue working as a PSA counselor, and now I'm a part-time counselor at Garfield. The principal's working with me so that I could run the nonprofit part-time. And I am also very appreciative of the principal at Garfield High School, because Garfield is the pride of East LA. And, him hiring me to lead parenting groups. And I also teach self-development and empowerment series in the 9th and 10th grade classrooms. And I go in there and I pump them up, and I talk to them about how to earn straight A's, about anti-bullying and that it comes from home. It's a reflection of home, about self-care for teens, healthy relationships. And I'm so passionate about it because it is my community. Yeah. These are the kids that I run into at the market. These are the kids that I run to at the CVS, like I like being held accountable, because I tell everybody it makes me want to behave.
As you're speaking, I just think about the Chicano movement, right? How there was that impact of Chicanos back in the 60s to empower the barrios, right? Yeah. And it's in them, it was in them to be able to say like, wait a minute, we see a difference here, Where is it? Acá, los güeros bien ricos, y what's going on? Our barrios need support. And I think for me personally, as a Chicana, I think like, I know being a Chicana is a chosen identity, right? Because I know some people don't like to be called Chicanos because they think it's gang related. Obviously, it's not. The culture, right? Wearing the cholito clothing is a culture, but I think that when you're saying, this is my community, these are the kiddos that I'm empowering, with wisdom and knowledge, right? Because it's two different, wisdom and knowledge, but when you give them both, it's just amazing. And you're impacting your community.
I hope so. Actually, I know so. And I like that accountability. And it's so fascinating. You made me remember something, because as a counselor, we used to meet with the kids, and we used to kind of target kids for dressing like cholos. Mm-hmm. And you can't, everyone knows what a cholo looks like. Yeah. So I would talk to the parents, because I really genuinely wanted to help the parent. And I would say, Señora, why are you letting your kid dress like a cholo? And the señora was like, he's not a cholo. Yes, he is. Look at the way he's dressed. And one mother told me, Miss Diaz, she said, I'm a single mom. I sell fruit down the street. All I could afford is payas paderes. Mm-hmm. And she told me the packs of shirts are 3 for $10, and my boys are clean, and they wash their clothes daily, and they smell like downy, and no one can tell me anything, and I feed them the best that I could. Nice. I was like, shoot. So that cholo style in our neighborhood, that's out of necessity. They wear workerman's clothes. They're wearing clean clothes that they could afford. This mom couldn't afford FUBU or whatever was in style, but that like stayed with me, and I never brought that up, because I realized all these kids that I was working with, they were shopping at the swap meet, at the calcetin lady that opens her van, like this was the experience. And instead of me shaming them, I have to empower them and be an example, because that's how we lead and mentor, Exactly. So I got over that style, and in fact, I embraced it. I had a chola birthday party at my house, and we talked about the history of the chola and the toughness that the woman had to recreate in order for her not to be bullied by other women or by her own brothers or her own neighborhood. We had to look tough, and the style is kind of tough. It's even on Paris Fashion Week, come on.
There you go. Yes, definitely. So, you share working with the youth, and when you became, because you were a vendor, right? And
Yeah.
you started out, how did that journey, how did you start with that? I know you mentioned your abuelita,
Oh,
getting,
yeah.
but what
Well,
did you?
I when I needed more money, because being a teacher and counselor, that's not enough money. So I needed a side hustle. And my parents taught me how to work, how to make money, and no and not to ask for government help. My dad would say, "You're not sick, you're not homeless, you're not, you have a family, you're gonna get to work." And they implanted it as they never applied for welfare, only I qualified for financial aid, obviously. But other than that, I learned to work early. I knew how to make stuff. I knew how to cook. I used to blow up balloons at parties. I used to make clothes for my friends because I learned apparel construction from my family. I, would make blankets and pillows. When I was in high school, I loaded up my car. I would drive out to Riverside and sell at a swap meet. Me, like 16-year-old by myself. My dad was like, "Andale," and I would vend that Melrose Swap meet. So I did it because that's how I knew how to make money. And I'm ambitious and I want to have more things, a better quality of life. And I knew I needed money. So that's why I did it. I was living at home with, unfortunately, because I'm from East LA, in the 90s, it was really drug infested. There was crack, it was an illness that was rampant in my neighborhood. And my older brother he fell to crack. And I was living he was living with us, and it was a nightmare. And he was stealing from us and, including our Christmas gifts. And it was just a nightmare living there. And I was paying rent. And I told my mom, "You cannot let Chava come back here. He's terrible and I'm paying rent. This is not, right." And she told me, "If you don't want to live here, te vas, vete. You don't need me. He needs me." And she's like, "But you can't leave this house unless you get married
Oh,
or you buy a house."
yeah.
And I was dating this boyfriend. I was in love with him, but I wasn't about to marry him. And I was like, freaking, I'm going to buy a house. And I drove down the street from my mom's house. And the first house I saw, I bought it. But back then they were a little more affordable. But I wasn't making the money. So I was like, well, I got to get to work. So I started popping up again. And this time, I had a home. I had a slightly larger network. I had some resources. The experience was different and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Then I got married and I stopped. And when I started having problems in my marriage, my only outlet, it's like I was partying it up. I was being all borracha, I was being all vaga, and it was very toxic. So I resorted back to the vending so that I could do something fun, productive, and not be toxic. And that's how I went back to vending, with more recently with the leather.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
I know.
Yeah, how old were you when you had your son?
I was 34.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And this is funny, and I hope it's not inappropriate, but my mom was like, ¿Por qué vas y vendes bolsas? Ya tienes trabajo, you're already a teacher. And your husband says, "Why are you selling bags?" And I told her, "Why, I need money." And I told her, ¿Qué quiere que venda mis nalgas? Like, lucky for me, I had a skill. My parents taught me a skill that I didn't have to resort to doing other things in order to get money. And that's what I did. And that's, what's sustaining me now, what's getting me through. It's been a blessing that I learned all the skills and ability from my parents.
El dinero honrado, bien
Yes.
ahora, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And nothing wrong against selling your nalgas. Sometimes, now I understand, some kids are being dragged into it and that's all they learn, that's all they know. And it's terrible, and I learned that I can't shame anybody. I can't judge, but what we have to do as leaders, as social workers, as counselor, is talk about these things that are happening so that we can start investing in the kids and create opportunities for them so that they don't have to engage in this, risky behavior.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah. No, definitely. Like you said earlier, it starts in the home.
Yeah.
Right.
It starts in the home. I tell the kids, when I tell them, you are a reflection of your home. So if you come and bully kids here, it's probably happening in your home.
Yeah.
I said, but your parents don't have time or resource to do counseling or therapy or empowerment or education, but you do. So you be the change in your family. And the kids, you know, they look at each other, they point it to, it's you. It's, you know, like they hold each other accountable. And that's why I like in there going in there and talking about it. And I tell them, you have the ability to change the behavior and not just impact your home, but our school, our community, and future generations. The responsibility is yours, just like it was for me. You know, I go in there all gung-ho, you know, like kind of preaching to them. I'm so fortunate that I'm able to deliver that message and that I get great feedback and reception from the kids. They like it.
Yeah, that's good. I can totally see that, them respecting you and really taking it because you're telling it as it is, like with compasión, pero bien directa, ¿no?
Yeah, with love, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And I tell them, I love you. And the kids are like, how could you love me if you don't even know me? I said, I love you, and that's why I'm here. Because the more you practice loving, the easier it gets.
Yes.
And, you know, I've told a couple of kids that, and sometimes I'm walking around the school and they're, Miss, I love you. I'm like, whoa. I love that. It feels really good, you know, to be able to touch someone in that way, impact them.
Porque muchos, because of generational traumas y la pobreza y la necesidad, se pierde a veces ese momento, right? To be like, se me olvidó, le dije a mi hijo, mi hija que la quiero hoy. I mean, sometimes they're just on survival mode. They don't.
Yeah. And I had one mom, because I give the same workshop to the parents. I had one mom that told me, Miss Diaz, yo no puedo decir eso. I can't say I love you. She's like, it's too powerful. My kids already know I love them. And I told her, yeah, they know, but we need to hear it. We need to hear it. And the more you say it, the easier it gets for the kids to, you know, say it back to you. And saying it out loud, it also holds you accountable. If I'm saying I love you, I have to show you that I love you. Yeah. My behavior has to show you and demonstrate that I really do. And I'm trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Thank you for what you do because it's so needed. And
thank you for what you do. You know, we need it. We need more platforms to share our stories, to get support.
Most definitely. I totally agree. And earlier you were saying the word ambition, right? Your ambition. Yeah. What do you think about mujeres, right? That, you know, growing up with parents, they're like, tienes que ser humilde, tienes que ser humilde. Don't be so ambitious. Money's not everything, you know? What do you think about that?
I think that it's fear and shame, you know, and being afraid to stand out, and our culture, there's so much guilt, right? The Catholicism, no offense to Catholics, but it's hard to come out of that, you know, and like and I laugh now because that's all I could do, laugh at my experience. But my mom used to tell me, if el día que tengas sexo, te lo voy a mirar en los ojos. And, you know, she told me I was going to go to hell. I was like, I waited my whole life. You know, I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to go to hell. I had all this guilt, all this shame. I would cover up, and, you know, and if I had felt any desire, I had felt all this guilt. And now that I'm older, and I told my mom, now that I'm older, I said, Mom, the first time that I had sex, I walked through the house. I couldn't look at you. I couldn't look at you in the eye. And then un día me miraste and nothing happened. And that's when I knew you were a liar. I told her.
Yeah, they impose so much.
Like, all this guilt and all that guilt and shame, I think it keeps you from growing and evolving. Yes. And I think the best thing that families can do is be open. And I tell moms now, you know, your kids want to talk about sex and drugs and all those things that are shameful. Are you going to go and learn and talk to moms and join a group and empower yourself so you could have this conversation? Or are you going to have those kids from other homes that have trauma educate your child?
Mm-hmm.
you know, and even though it's uncomfortable for you, I don't want to talk about it with my son, but I have to. And the more I've done it, the more comfortable I am, the easier it gets. And our relationship, you know, has forged a lot stronger, and I'm more comfortable with it. And I'm more comfortable with empowering other mothers, you know.
Those sensitive topics are definitely needed, right? Most.
Yes.
So tell us about El Mercado, and the Goddess Mercado and the Queer Mercado founder. Like, what? A ver, and dinos, because it's so awesome. I love it. I love the names.
Well, because I'm so big about my community, and, you know, I told you, these women that I met in my entrepreneur journey, popping up, sharing stories, you know, and I got a little huevona. I didn't want to be driving far everywhere. And I thought, you know what? I wish I had a market in my neighborhood where if I forgot something, I could just go back really quick, because that would always happen to me. And my mom could see me, and my neighbors, you know, I could be with community, because that was my experience growing up in the swap meet, you know, vending. We were community. We would go to each other's parties. We would, you know, hang out. You know, I dated one of the boys at the swap meet. You know, it was cool.
Yeah.
So I recruited women that I knew, products that I liked, and I popped up at a local parking lot, like a block away from my house, and I paid the owner of the parking lot, a friend of mine, and we had a great time, and everyone came out. And then all of a sudden, the owner was like, you got to charge double. I was like, I'm not going to charge double. I forced some of the girls. I was like, get over here, put a sticker on that, and let's sell. I was like, because that's my approach. I wasn't going to do that to my friends. I felt terrible. I'm not going to profit off of my friends. I'm going to profit off of my work, my product. So I left. And then it happened again. And these guys were like, come on, raise the price. You're charging too cheap. You need to get paid. And you know, we're going to give you money. I'm talking like that because that's the way they talk to me, all like salesmen. I was like, no, you're crazy. I'm not going to do that. And I didn't like the way they were treating me, you know, because, you know, they were men. And in fact, one of the guys, he yelled at me. And I was so upset about it. I couldn't believe that I got yelled at, you know, me doing all these things like with heart. And I called him and I told him, you know what? This isn't sitting well with me. And I'm asking you for a favor. Please talk to me the way you want any man to talk to your daughter.
Yeah.
He didn't like that. And he told me, you know what? From now on, you can deal with my partner, not me. He didn't want to deal with it. I was too strong for him. So I kept bouncing around till I realized, you know, like, okay, I got to run this market, you know, with the girls. I engaged them, and we agreed that we were all going to be volunteers to support each other and empower each other. And I committed to being a volunteer so that I could keep the vendor fee low, because I even recruited former students of mine.
Oh, really?
I had a girl that she was a beekeeper, the youngest registered beekeeper in California, who you have to have on your podcast. And she would come and bring me honey for my birthday because she's in the neighborhood. That's the benefit of living in your neighborhood, right? Working with the kids. And it was such great honey. And I would run out, she'd deliver it. And I start the market. I was like, I put a sticker, a label on that shit, and get out here. We need it. And homegirl has a crew. She's popping up everywhere. She's in boutiques. She was in the newspaper, you know, and I feel so proud of that, because that's the potential that each one of us has when we plant a seed, you know, into someone that we love and that we mentor, that we see a strength in, you know, and it's been awesome. We grew from 13 vendors to now, at one point we had like 96 goddesses. And they show up in their crowns, and, you know, and I'm learning about branding as an entrepreneur. Like, I realized I gotta learn. I'm leading these women, you know, I want to mentor them. I want them to thrive, because if people come for them, they're gonna come for me, and vice versa. So I started learning all these things on my own, reading podcasts, journaling, everything. And I learned that it's so important to be able to be unique, to be you, to stand out as a brand, and, you know, have fun with it. And I was like, hell yeah. I'm going to have a blast. So since it's the Goddess Mercado, you know, one of the girls made little crowns so we could wear in a fashion show. We have fashion show, we have live music, we have food. Now we have a farmer's market. We're at the park. And I told all the ladies, wear your crowns. We're all goddesses. And anybody who comes here is a goddess. So if you come to our mercado, you are going to see goddesses in full regalia with their goddess gear and representing culture, Latinidad, chicana-ness, empowerment, sustainability, recycling, creativity, motherhood, goddess power, goddess vibe. That's what you're going to get, girl. And I love it. And I'm addicted to it. And that's all I want to do for 24 hours, but I have to pay my bills.
No.
So we need support from the community to come out, to continue inspiring us by supporting us, by, you know, bringing their young girls. A lot of young girls are coming and being inspired by us. We sponsor any school age goddess. If you have a child that has a craft or a talent who paints, draws, we give them a free booth the first time. So they can make their money. You know, that's how I started. I was like, if I would have had somebody like the Goddess Mercado, the women of the goddess, when I was 5, girl.
Imagine, millonario.
Yes. So now our community has us. And
Yeah.
we're spreading the word. And we want to involve youth. We want to empower these young ladies so that they can take care of us when they grow old. Because that's what I'm doing now. I provide a small stipend for a little old lady chola that I met at a nonprofit that I worked at. I told her, I need a security, join me. So we give her a little stipend because she's on fixed income. She tallies everyone. She welcomes everyone. She accepts the donations so that we could buy lunch for the volunteers, and she prays for us. And it's very powerful. You know, it's really beautiful. You got to come and meet her, Irene Murillo.
Ah, okay. Yes, definitely. Well, I guess we'll talk about when to end because I'm already like mañana voy.
You're excited. It's next Saturday, March 11th. And it's the second Saturday of every month at the East LA Civic Center. The space was gifted to us by Supervisor Solis. So we have a permanent residency as long as we behave and the community continues to embrace us. We have our permits, our license, everything, and we're there permanently. And her hosting us there has allowed us to hire our first employee. And I say first because, you know, we're going to grow. We're going to do other beautiful things for the community. And on the third Saturday is the Queer Mercado, which is the queer vending community, same and similar concept.
Oh, that is so awesome. You know, as you were sharing all this, it took me to like, you know, when our parents wanted to fix something in the house and they were just like, I'd just rather do it myself. I can't find that specific person that I want for this. We just have to do it. I think, you know, I don't know, I see that in you as well, where it's like, well, no lo vi, no lo encontré, lo voy a crear.
Let me do it. Let me do it. You know, the resourcefulness that we learn from poverty, from lack of resources, from lack of access, from shame, from, you know, lack of network, you know, it requires for us to do it ourselves. And that's what I learned how to make my own clothes. You know, I've always loved fashion and my parents couldn't afford it and we would thrift or the church would give us money. And my dad told me, and I always thought I had great taste, right? So my dad's like, ven aquí. He's like, I'm going to show you how to make pants really easy with elastic. And I would go to downtown and buy beautiful fabrics, beautiful colors. And I would make these pants with elastic and it was like 80s and 90s. So I would wear the cable cord sweaters and the little booties. Like I was resourceful. And then, you know, like a chola, you know, I had to work with what I got. And you know, that is our community. We're resourceful. When you go to Mexico, right, or other Latin American countries, they don't throw anything away. They recycle the jar, and that's your fancy drink, and the furniture is made out of pallets and trash, you know, and it's so beautiful that culture, that resourcefulness, that the craftiness, and you know, we're OG recyclers and upcyclers. So
yeah, and it helps because, you know, even like I can relate. I couldn't find anything relatable to Chicanas. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know how to start a podcast. I spent a whole Sunday just figuring it out, and I figured it out. And now it's like almost 5 years, and it's like, oh my God, it's
you're
great.
doing an amazing job. I heard your podcast. I love your voice and your energy, and you sound very genuine and real and very passionate about your Chicana-ness, and you're empowering, and that's why I'm happy to be here. It's a privilege, and you're beautiful.
Thank you. Likewise. So much.
Amapola. Qué rico nombre. Like,
Hola, como la flor peligrosa.
yes.
Yeah, so okay, well, I think you're creating so many beautiful things. So what are some three advice that you can share with the listeners? Because, you know, you have so much knowledge in the entrepreneur aspect, mother, right, as a Chicana, as a woman, and so many areas. So what are some takeaways that you can share?
One of the most important things that I've learned now that I'm older, and it's so easy, you know, the best investment is you. The best investment that you can make in terms of love, health, energy, wisdom, you know, instead of sharing that with others when you're not ready, is do it for you. Focus on you. Love yourself deeply. Love yourself madly. You know, preserve yourself for you. And I'm seeing that now, like I've sacrificed a lot of time. We were talking about this before. It's a Friday night, and here we are doing a podcast. And I've sacrificed a lot of outings and meeting up with old friends and, you know, missing out on some cool concerts and stuff, you know. And it hurts me sometimes, right? But I remind myself, the people who really love me will still be there when I come out of whatever phase I'm going through. And that's always your family. They're always there, whether they like you or not, you know, because they love you. And your best investment is you. Focus on you. Make those sacrifices that are going to impact your life. Those small changes daily. Surround yourself with people that inspire you to focus on you, you know, and learn from them. And that's what, you know, I'm here because you inspired me. I'm like, this badass Chicana podcast, like, I want to learn from her. Let me get to know her. Let me include her in my network. You're stuck with me now, girl. You're a goddess. Investment is you, your health, your nutrition, your self-love. And especially because my dad passed away 2 years ago. And at the end, he was miserable and unhappy. And I would tell him, Dad, go to the gym, exercise, don't eat that, don't eat this. He was diabetic and he didn't want to change. And I told him, you know what? That's very selfish of you because you're becoming an inconvenience for us. You know, and it's terrible to say this, but it's true. I told him, I love you. I'm taking time off of work. I'm bringing food. I'm paying for someone to care for you. And you can't even care for you. How selfish of you. And I learned from my dad that I don't want to be a burden on my son. And after he passed, I like cut back on, you know, the unhealthier stuff I was doing. I hit it hard at the gym because I don't want, if I really love my boy, I'm not going to burden him. Focus on you. The best investment you can make is you, especially if you love your family and others around you. The second tip, sorry that I'm long-winded, I get very passionate about it. Yeah. The second thing that I've learned in growing my brand and leading and mentoring the women from the mercados is we have to be exclusive and inclusive. Like, I am Chicana, and even though I am me, and I like to be extravagant with, you know, my fixed income that I have, and I want to have fun, and, you know, I want to talk about sex and youth and shamelessness and vulgarities. Those things interest me, and it doesn't scare me, and I don't no longer want to hold back. I am uniquely me, exclusively me, and that's what I mean by exclusive. And it's okay to be me. I don't have to fit everyone's mold. But be inclusive. I'm not going to exclude you know, I have a lot of Salvadoreña friends, and they're always, oh, chicana, they make fun of me, you know. But, you know, my Salvadoreña friends have similar experiences as mine. And I have a lot to learn from them, and I enjoy it. And, you know, I am inclusive with my Afro-Americanas and my white friends and Asian friends, because we have so much to learn and appreciate from each other. Be exclusive and inclusive, because we learn and we grow. And the final thing that I tell everyone, here's my vulgarity, no huevonas. No huevonas here. And although we have to set time for self-care, time to relax, because I have those days where I wake up with hives because I overstress myself, you know, like I'm you know, I'm a workaholic. I'm not a huevona. I'm going to get up at 4. I have a lot of things to do. I have a strong role as a mother. I need to get up. I need to exercise. I need to cook healthy. You know, I can't afford for somebody else to do it for me. So then I have to do it for me. And those huevona days, I tell myself, get your ass up, huevona. Get to work. Love yourself. Empower yourself so that you could share with those you love. So no huevonas.
To thrive. And
yes.
that amazing version of ourselves, right? As we continue to live this beautiful life. We're not here forever, pero hay que dejar esa huella, ¿no?
Yeah, it's important. And even if people tell you, oh, you're velada, or oh, te crees, you know what? I do. I value myself. I want to leave an impact on my son, on his children. And it's important to share our stories and to behave and to be good and to be loving, so that we can make a difference, you know, at least in one person. You never know.
Exactly. It's like one person at a time. And like you said, you know, it starts with ourselves to be able to be beautiful things. So thank you so much, Diana, for sharing your heart, your passion. I feel it.
Thank you, Amapola.
You're very welcome. You're welcome to come back anytime. Gracias por tu tiempo, tus palabras, your wisdom, your dedication for the community. It is so freaking like amazing, beautifully, the way you are bringing that touch of you as a community, you know, with your goddesses and, you know, the mercado. And it's just beautiful. Thank you for that.
Thank you, goddess. So I want to make sure that you come out next Saturday, March 11th, and the second Saturday of every month from 10 to 2 p.m. It's free admission. If anyone in your network wants to be a vendor, they apply on the Instagram Goddess link. Follow us on Instagram at the Goddess Mercado, at the Queer Mercado, at the Goddess Mercado Boutique, which I didn't get to mention. That'll be another story, but look it up and you'll learn all about the Goddess Boutique. And more importantly, follow Mexichic Crafts with 2 C's, so that you could see my leather line and start investing in someone that has fabulous taste and that loves her community. Why not?
Exactly. There you go.
Thank you so much, Amapola, for having me. I had a great time.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. And all of your links are going to be on the note section for the listeners to go and click and go follow and support and buy those beautiful purses, which I'm going to get one también cuando vaya.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. So thank you, Chicanas and Latinas, for listening. Cuídense mucho, que Dios las bendiga, and stay tuned for more. Adiós.